Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Imagine Better. This is Mark Powers, your host, and today I'm honored and so grateful to have a special guest, a new friend, the one and only two-time TEDxer, Jay Johnson. Jay, welcome to episode 10, my friend.
How you doing?
Good. I'm excited. This has been a really fun journey for me. Yeah. You know, it's just every day. I look forward to Wednesdays because it's the day I get awesome people like you coming into the studio, and we have a great conversation, enjoy some coffee, get to know each other.
It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know Jay, we're going to get into it a little bit. He's a co-founder of Behavior Elements. He is a two-time TEDx talker. He's a keynote speaker. I mean, I don't know when he sleeps, but he's here today in the Imagine Better studio. We're just going to have a great conversation, probably around the behavioral. I mean, that's your thing, right?
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, you're the grand master.
I don't know about that. I'm still working on my own behavior. So,
yeah. Well, hey, that's great. I mean, I follow you all over the old interwebs, and you do a great job. I mean, you're speaking. When you're speaking, I see you kind of walk the stage. You are so confident. Like, I'm jealous because it's been a while for me. Okay. And I want to get to that level. It's going to, I'm working on it. I've been talking to a few of the guests that's been on the show, and they're like, you have the energy, you have it. You just got to believe in yourself to do it.
Absolutely.
So there's all that.
It's interesting because a lot of people have asked me at different points in time, like, what is it that makes you comfortable on stage? And, and honestly, the truth is everybody, I think, starts out a little uncomfortable, and then it either you sort of get into there, but it's the adrenaline, it's the like I get excited. It's almost like an athlete before before a match. It's hey, are you nervous? No, I'm excited. And if once I had that mentality, it seems
that's awesome. I mean, let's tell the audience a little bit. I mean, obviously, there's a bunch of us that know who you are. But for those out there watching this for the first time, who's this Jay Johnson guy?
Sure. So, I guess I am a behavioral scientist, and I work to support organizations and people and helping them to improve their behaviors.
Okay.
And as I said, I'm still working on my own. So research is me search.
Don't go analyzing me today.
Not at all. So I studied neuroscience, psychology, and communication, and that's the kind of three pegs. But ultimately, I was on a quest to understand why did I do the things that I did, or why did I choose the pathways that I chose.
Interesting.
And in kind of researching and studying that, I picked up a few things along the way that seemed helpful, and I've started to train and speak and develop a program to really help people better understand what it is that drives them each and every day.
Now, this is the office that's in Southfield, or Livonia, I mean?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So we have Coius Creative Group is sort of our larger brand.
Okay.
And then under that is really sort of a handful of different services that are behavior related. So one of the things, like, for example, is we do a lot of training and coaching for organizations, helping managers, helping leaders.
Things like this.
Exactly.
Okay.
And one of the things that every manager and every leader really wants to see is behavioral change.
Right.
That's why they hire people to come in and do training. That's why they hire people to be your HR officers, or that's why their managers are trying to, build rapport with their teams, is to help them behave intelligently. And that's what we really kind of help excel.
And you probably get more productivity, I would imagine, out of your workforce.
Yeah. Everything from engagement to retention to conflict resolution to you name it, productivity, all of it is really about behavior. It's how people choose to behave.
So do you see, or do you track the results outside of the workplace as well? So you're in your coaching and training them on this. Do you see how that carries over into their personal lives?
Actually, yeah. So a lot of the work that we do, I think of conflict resolution. One of my big talks was dealing with difficult people. And
I saw that.
I always start that with raise your hand if you're dealing with difficult people. And sure enough, everybody in the hand. I've given that talk in 36 countries, and of course, every single person raises their hand. I always follow it up with, if you're not raising your hand, you're probably somebody's difficult.
That's right. You're probably that difficult.
Yeah, but in that, we all deal with difficult people or difficult behaviors as we kind of shift through that. whether it's at work, at home, whether it's in a grocery store or anywhere else. The skills that we can use to sort of control our own reactions and manage our behaviors are very similar, and they're really kind of cross-applied.
I love it. Hey, you guys, if you have any comments, drop them in the comments below. Share a story. If you're dealing with some difficult people, give us an example, and let's get Jay to comment and respond back to that. I'd love to hear that. And again, as always, share this and let's help other people, with their behavior and their changes. So behavioral change, I mean, it really does take a lot of work. I mean, this isn't just something that you get some training, you get some coaching, and then magically in a month, you're just like you got this new shiny armor on, ready to tackle life, right?
Right.
I mean, you got to dig deep in the soul, I would imagine.
Yeah, it starts with awareness and really understanding where our behaviors come from or why we choose certain behaviors over others. And when we recognize that we may have thoughts and we may have feelings, and those two things together generally lead to our behaviors. But there's a lot of space in between a thought and an action.
Oh, you're not kidding.
And there's a lot of space between an emotion and a reaction. And what we try to do is help people make that space more effective and to really think through what is the action that's going to lead to my best result here. Because the behavior piece is we've all been really frustrated with somebody at some point in time and wanted to scream at our boss whatever, right? But it's much more about, I'm going to choose a pathway that's going to lead to my success. And that's what we help people understand, is your behavior is a choice, and how we choose to behave determines our successes and failures.
Now, is there any type of, I guess, who would your intended audience be for something like this? Is it mostly corporation, just leadership across the board?
It's been really cool. I've had some really nice opportunities to work with big companies, small companies, government, and pretty much anywhere. And the one thing that I say is, it doesn't matter what your business is, it deals with people.
Absolutely.
So I would say our largest area has always been manufacturing. We've done a lot of work in the manufacturing space. Ford, Stellantis, Nikon, NASA, and then healthcare. We do a lot of work in the healthcare space. So Johns Hopkins, a bunch of the local ones around here. We spoke for Henry Ford, and a lot of home care, healthcare. So
what's the size of the organization?
So I have 14 people on staff here. I'm going to say here in the United States, I have 14 people directly on staff. Some of them are in North Carolina, some of them are in California. They started here and have moved there since, so they've been with me for a while. Yeah,
you're expanding and growing.
Satellite offices. Right?
Nice.
So we've got 14 locally, but then I also have what are called certified guides in our behavioral elements programs. So I've trained them, got them certification so that way they can use and deploy the assessment that we have and the program, the training materials, and all the behavior change mechanics. And I've got 60 of those all over the globe.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I think we're in 14 countries now at this time.
Woo! Yeah. Good job. All right. I love it. So every episode when I get on here, because what the thing that I love about this show is that it helps me. You talk about behavioral change. I mean, I've been going through it, man. And awareness is absolutely number one. I agree with you, because without that awareness, you kind of do the stupid shit you always done. At least I have.
Patterns.
It is a pattern. Then there's little triggers that just that cause that behavior to happen, that old bad habit. So the last 2 years, I've been legitimate going to therapy, and every Tuesday at 10 a.m. I love it. I'll never stop going. And this awareness thing is a big piece for me. And it's helped me transform kind of like where I was in my dark space a couple years ago. Yeah. Depressed, just self-sabotaging myself. I was just not in a good spot, Jay. And so from that moment to as I sit here across from you, I feel and think like I used to, but I'm at an improved level. Yeah. And I wish I did this years ago. Like I tell people, it's not for just like if you're just crazy. It's it helps you become a better human. It digs deep. It helps you really analyze yourself, who you are, where you want to be, and more importantly, gives you the strategy, the guidance, and support to get there. Yep. So I would imagine yours is the same, or if not, obviously probably better than that.
It's interesting because I actually started therapy, I would say, about a year and a half ago. And since I've moved, I'm actually in the market for a new therapist. But I love it. And I've always been a huge advocate for it. I think that it's something that when we start to... It's really difficult. There's actually a really cool study, Mark. I'll share it with you. And I forget the people that did it, but basically somebody was put into it. You'd be put into a room, and it's this room with just a chair and a table all by yourself.
Right.
And you essentially had a choice. You could either sit there in silence and by yourself with your own thoughts, or you could choose to basically press this button, which would let you out of the room, but it would deliver a shock. Now, obviously, this was a while ago, and it wasn't a devastating shock, but it was a shock that was definitely going to cause some pain. 85% of the people took the shock to leave the room. They wouldn't sit in a room quietly with their own thoughts for 20 minutes. And it's such an interesting thing because oftentimes it's hard. It's hard work to sit with our own feelings, emotions, thoughts, and really evaluate where did those come from. So I don't do any of the clinical side, but I wanted to understand that. So decided to, hey, let's understand a little bit more about myself. And
I love that.
So that's awesome.
So I would have just stayed in the room. How many of you guys, which one would you do? Would you guys stay in the room, collect your thoughts, a little self-discovery, or would you hit the button, and shock yourself, be willing to get shocked to get out of that room? Drop a comment. Let Jay and I know.
I think I would have taken a nap.
I would have started just, first of all, probably having some songs in my head. Tapping the table.
That's right.
I don't know. I would have maybe started singing. Who knows what I would do?
Well, it helps that I'm absolutely averse to electricity, so I think I would have stayed in that room as long as they left me there.
I have no problem just sitting by myself. I do it a lot. So, every morning I get up, I do some meditation. Then I do a 45-minute workout.
That's great.
Every day, and I tell you, the meditation side, I love it.
That's huge. It's huge.
I don't know if I'm doing it right. I just sit there and kind of get in some kind of pose, and I think
there's a great place. I don't think you can do meditation wrong. If it centers you, if it brings you to that presence, if it helps you with that breath, it's awesome. But there's a great place actually not far from here down in Hamtramck called the Detroit Zen Center. And they offer public classes, I think, on Sundays. I went down there for a little while. That was something that was just absolutely incredible. So,
wow.
Yeah, really cool place.
See, I'm kind of new to this whole meditation thing, and I think it's helping me, again, through where I'm at in my life and where I'm trying to go. And I've never done it, and I figured, okay, one day I'm sitting there, and I'm stretching, and I'm like, what do they call it, the yoga, it's a move, baby position or something like that. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Baby pose. You're basically all on your knees and you're just bent over.
Yep.
I don't know what it's called, but it's that pose. If you guys know, drop it in the comments. And I was like, oh, not only does it feel good on my back, but I just closed my eyes. I was like, oh, now I feel kind of relaxed. So then I started that way, and then I just set up and did the whole thing and grab your feet and stretch and whatever, and then that's typically how I do it. I don't know. Again, don't know if it's right. You guys guide me here, but I feel so calm. And I've only been doing that for maybe 3 months now.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So any of the meditation that I've done has mostly been, so I did have a very fortunate experience in one of the programs that I was part of. It was a leadership development program. I got to spend 10 days in Himeji, Japan. And we got to visit one of the monasteries. Actually, if you've ever seen the movie, it's a Tom Cruise movie, The Last Samurai.
Yes.
Most of it was shot, most of the actual scenes were shot in this space in Himeji. You take a gondola up a mountain, and then you got to walk another 2 miles to get to the top to this monastery.
Wow.
But I got to do some meditation with the monks there and a tea ceremony, and it was a really interesting thing because as you're sitting there and you think the silence and everything else like that, there was actually somebody who was coming around and he had a stick, and he would come up to you, and as you're sitting there and you're sort of in listening to the chant or anything else, he would come up and he'd just kind of whack you on the shoulder.
No way.
And it was just I still to this day not exactly sure. It wasn't brutal, but I was like, wow, like I felt alive afterwards.
So what was the point of that?
I don't know if it was
break
to
your
try to
see if you could break your concentration.
Something, or do you sit there and like kind of reflect on it? I have no idea what the purpose of it was, but I'll tell you, it struck in my memory. I will never ever forget that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If any of you guys out there know what that is and why that monk would have just smacked him up on the head or something, or
I would love to know.
Yeah, drop it in the comments. Let us know, because now I'm very curious.
Yeah.
You know, what an experience that would have been.
That was pretty cool.
So you're the wise man on the mountain now?
No, there was definitely wise men on that mountain. So no, it was really cool to go and learn from them.
So that right there sounds like that's one heck of a life journey and experience. Anything that you've done and when your travels that top that or equal to that, you think?
It's really hard. Yes, One of the ones. It's not even so many. It's like for me, every new experience feels like that. Like and it doesn't have to be. A lot of people ask me, "Where's your favorite place to travel to?" And I'm going to give a little plug to my Estonian friends. But Estonia is actually, and most people are like, "Where is that?" And it's like on the Baltics, but it's just such an incredible place to see a balance of technology and history and environment and business and kindness and strength. Like you see all these different sort of beautiful balances, and it's kind of related to what I teach in behaviors, being able to balance our behaviors.
Okay.
But that's a beautiful place to experience and learn that. I got to swim in the Amazon. That was pretty cool in Suriname, South America.
Nice.
So that was fun. A lot of experiences
those experiences. I always talk about this too. So we're all on this journey. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And across that journey, we have those experiences. And as we collect our experiences, I really believe that that's what makes each and every one of us unique and beautiful.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just that's why I like asking questions like where people have traveled, the culture, the people they've met. Because sometimes, and I've traveled a lot myself, and all around the world. And every time I meet somebody, especially if they hardly speak English, I love those little towns and the authenticity, the authentic food, the culture. Yep. I don't know. You could just they impact my life in a way that I never thought could happen.
What I have found and what I try to tell if I'm teaching something like cultural adaptability or even, like international business, one of the things that I tend to share is for all the things that make us different, at the core, we're all human.
Yes.
And we want the same things. We want safety, we want security, we want resources, we want to not feel hungry, we want to laugh, we have emotions of frustrations. We want our next generation to do better than we did. It's really so much that actually unites us.
Yeah.
I think if people travel more, they tend to have more of a, I'll call it the 30,000 foot view of humanity.
Yeah, it's, I know a lot of people that have traveled, but I also know a lot of people that haven't. And a lot of the people that haven't, there are a lot of reasons. It could be financial, fear, right?
Absolutely.
So when you think about the behavioral stuff that you do, obviously that gives a tremendous amount of direction and helps truly change and or transform individuals, right? What is so we talked about awareness. When you're sitting there starting this whole program, how do you get to the point where awareness becomes the duh? Like, aha, it's not the duh, but the aha moment, now I'm aware.
So actually, what we have found is the discovery takes less than 30 minutes. And
really?
Because it's so intuitive when we understand it. And we use the work of Dr. Paul Lawrence and Dr. Nitin Noria from Harvard University. They studied, they wanted to understand why do we do what we do? And they did comprehensive, multiple disciplinary, evolutionary biology, neuroscience, psychology, anthropology, you name it. They looked at cultures going back to our ancient ancestors 100,000 years ago plus.
Wow. And
what they were trying to literally understand is, and this is one of the cool things, Mark, and I love this, they came up with the 4 drive theory. And the 4-drive theory is that we as humans, we had to do certain things to survive before the iPhone. Before you were watching this on LinkedIn, we had some things that we had to do. And
there was light before these things?
Right. So what they looked at was, okay, we had to hunt and gather.
Yes.
And that really is associated with our drive to acquire. We had to acquire resources. Right. If we didn't acquire, if you were the best hunter, you got the best food, you got the best mate options, your line would continue.
You're the popular guy in that time.
Exactly. So you had to do that. But you couldn't do it alone. So we have a drive to bond. If we didn't connect with each other, or if I was unkind to everybody in my tribe, I'd be kicked out. I'm off alone, and sure enough, I'm probably going to die, and that genetic sequence starts to go out. So we have a drive to bond. We have a drive to defend. We had to think through things. We had to create processes. We had to look at, we had to look and say, okay, we know that a winter's coming up, or there's only this much water, and we have this many people. So we had to create systems to survive, and that's our drive to defend. And then the fourth, is our drive to learn. We had to figure out how to create fire. We had to explore new territories. We had to find different ways of doing things, new tools. We had to build fire, etc. So those 4 drives, acquire, learn, bond, and defend, are at the core of our brain systems. So the drive to acquire is dopaminergic, the dopamine system, the dopamine neurotransmitter. Oxytocin is our drive to bond. Cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, drive to defend. Acetylcholine and GABA, our drive to learn. That's what literally drives our behavior.
Awesome.
So our behavioral elements program, we measure those.
See, a real scientist. I just sit here and I know some of these words. I would never be able to associate them to the 5 elements you just brought out.
But we have those 4 things, and once people understand, okay, we had 185,000 years. That's the earliest known fossil evidence of humans.
Okay.
Civilization, in theory, was about 8,000 years old.
Okay.
So that means we had 175,000 plus years of having to rely on those 4 core biological drives in order to get to the iPhone. But with that being said, what we did is we figured out how to measure those things. So everybody has all 4 drives, but they affect us differently. So
that makes sense.
My drive to acquire, my fire element, if you will, in the behavioral elements, that's my highest. My second is air, to learn and innovate, and then to hit my goals. That's really my focus. I'm very competitive and all that fun stuff.
You seem like you would be.
I was a hockey player. I was a mixed martial artist. I was a competitive debater in college. So yes. But I also learned, and through this program, I've learned that if I'm always showing up with my high fire element, I'm probably going to put other people off. I'm probably not going to have a strong team because I'm going to go, let's run, let's do this. And the team's going to be sitting there going, I'm tired. Can we not push that hard?
The type A driver running us over.
Yeah, exactly. So learning to balance those things and to bring in systems into my work, which when I started my business, I didn't have any systems. My employee manual was to, quote, behave intelligently at all times. Very easy to write that, policy manual.
Then over time define it.
Yeah, but so it didn't really have those systems in place, and that slows down progress. So I've had to learn to balance, and that's what we really try to help people understand is what are those drives are pulling you or pushing you to do certain things, and then how can we learn to balance those different things out in a more effective way?
Yeah, and I would imagine the push and the pull is a constant.
Yeah. Every decision, and I always make the joke, if you think about it, if your best friend brings a giant chocolate cake into your space and says, help yourself, you get that first drive, that acquire drive. Ooh, I want that.
Right.
And then your defend drive comes in and says, oh, but I shouldn't eat all that. I'll get sick if I eat too much of it. Or I just started a diet. Or, oh, those calories.
Exactly.
Then your third drive comes in and says, but Mark brought it in and he's my friend and I should definitely have a piece, otherwise I might offend Mark. Drive to bond. And then your air drive, your drive to learn comes in and says, I'll just take the stairs the rest of the day. That's going to make the calories balance out. So every decision that we have feels the push and pull of these drives. But when one drive outweighs the other or is stronger than the others,
right,
we might just say, yeah, give me the cake.
Yeah.
Every single time. Or,
so that's interesting. So you guys, again, drop comments. Share with Jay and I which driver you see yourself in mostly, like which lane I guess you would be in, right? But isn't that crazy to think like all 4 of those, if our brains could process just what you did to have that cake, like just like that, like AI, it's just, okay, here's my final decision. I'm going to have some cake because I'm going to take the stairs the rest of the day. That's what I decided to do, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of saying no, because now I'm going to, offend or whatever, maybe. So, or get sick. But that's awesome.
Well, and that's a big part of it is these drives are playing around in our brain at all different times.
Okay.
When we bring awareness to that aspect, it allows people to say, okay, am I leaning too far into my fire element? Am I leaning too far into water elements? So we've done about 40,000 assessments at this point in time. And water, the drive to bond, about 50% of the general population tends to have water as their primary drive. And what we have found in some of our research is water elements tend to experience burnout faster than some of the other elements because they're so focused on other people.
Yes.
And their family, their friends, their team, that they're absorbing the emotions and sometimes even the work of other people. So what we try to train is water elements. How do you create balance? How do you draw healthy boundaries? How do you create systems that you're regenerating your cup before you're trying to fill everybody else's?
Yeah.
And so like when we understand those different drives, it really helps. It helps with marketing too, which I know is your background.
Yeah. No, this is now I've got to look in this. A mutual friend of ours, Terry Bean.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he talks about this stuff.
Yep.
I think did he go to your course?
He's one of our certified guides.
Okay.
Yep.
Terry, I talk about you every show because everyone I bring on here knows you, and you're Mr. Wind, Earth, and Fire. I mean, this guy is just, that's how he talks about it. So, he went through your program.
Yeah, I'm saying it on camera right now.
Beautiful.
I'm saying it on camera right now. Terry's one of my absolute favorite people in the world. He's
Terry
incredible.
Bean.
So here's to you, brother.
Well, you may or may not be aware of this, and I've shared it on a couple episodes. I've known Terry for a long time, but he's the one who really inspired me to do this show.
Awesome.
Yeah. In fact, when
he's good at that.
I had this idea, and he knew I was trying to crawl up out of my cave, and I already had the branding done. I had the name, everything done. I had the format built out, so I sent him a big long text, and he probably read the first line or two and said, "All right." No, I'm sure he read the whole thing. And then him and I jumped on the phone, and he says, "Yeah, you know what? This is brilliant. Let's do it. I'll be the first guest. We'll do an inaugural, like a pilot." And, I didn't have any of this stuff. I'm telling you, it was bad. The lighting, you can go to the YouTube channel and see it. The content's awesome. Mr. Terry Bean rocks. But our sound and our lighting was poor as poor can be. Obviously, it's vastly different now, but anyway. But yeah.
Terry's an incredible guide, and he has his experience and utilizing that program has just, he's incredible.
That is awesome. Yeah. I was wondering as we were sitting there listening, and I was like, that sounds like something that Terry had to have gone through. So, awesome. Good job, Terry. So, outside of behavioral patterns and different elements that make that up, it sounds like you were an athlete.
Yeah.
You're a family man. Are you? I don't think we got into that. You have obviously we all have families, but
yeah. So actually, it's a small family, very small family.
Yeah. Nice.
I like to spend.
Likes boating.
Yeah, that absolutely. And I am. I guess maybe something that a lot of people might not know is I really enjoy survivalist type activities.
Oh, that'd be
so
fun.
I have a friend coming in from Germany and a friend from Mexico that's coming in August. We're going to go spend 5 days, no food, no water taking with us, just tools, and we're going to go out and primitive live and survive in the wild. Yeah.
See the cool things, you guys, I learned from my friends and guests that come on this show. Because, it's everyone kind of expects, I think, on these podcasts or these shows to be all professional all the time. I want to get to know the person, too, and behind the why of what you do. That is very cool.
So
that is intriguing.
That started a long time ago. I've always loved the outdoors. I mean, that's been one of my big things. And I don't really... So Alone, if you've ever seen the television show Alone, where they
seen some of it.
Send somebody out and they're, it's so fascinating to me because in that, it's another great example of people get there and they're these hardened survivalists and like 10 hours into it, they're like, I miss my family. I need to go back. Like, I can't do this.
Right.
And they feel very, obviously, alone. But I've always been... Like, I look at living in that space, and obviously I wouldn't want to do that for 100 days or anything, but it's really an ultimate test of resilience and kind of pushing your boundaries and understanding your limitations and being able to navigate and overcome.
No shocker button to get you out of there either.
No, exactly. I don't have a sat phone and a helicopter on standby.
You're there.
But it's one of those where in those in those trips, I've learned a lot about myself, and I've learned a lot about, like, there's been points and times where it's just like, oh my gosh, I want to quit. And it's
What's the longest you've gone without eating on these trips?
So thankfully, Michigan forests are plentiful in forests, rivers, and everything else. So the one trip that we did was 4 days, and over the course of the 4 days, I had 1 clam, 2 fish that were about this big.
Oh my goodness.
And a handful of berries, which good choice berries. They weren't bad choice berries, so that was good. And a handful of wild carrot. And that was essentially all I ate for 4 days.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. Not you're not gnawing on tree bark or anything?
I wanted to at some point in time. About day 2 is when I was just like, wow, I am really hungry.
See, to me, this speaks volumes to the person you are. Not only at your core, but then how you help leaders, because you're disciplined, right? You are constantly striving to embrace and improve, the behavior and understanding the drivers of that behavior and those decisions. I can see, that your personal life carries just seamlessly right into your professional life. That's awesome.
Yeah, so.
High five to that, man.
Thank you.
Wow, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I got to start doing something interesting. I play guitar.
That's
about
awesome,
it.
Though. I am so musically disinclined. Okay, so like during COVID, I don't know why I thought this would be a good idea. I bought a violin. I love violin music.
Oh, yeah.
So I love classical music, amongst other things. I'm pretty varietal there.
Right.
So I really enjoy music. I was like, all right, I'm going to learn to play the violin. I've got a little extra time on my hands. And after about 3 weeks, and I realized I still couldn't even get close to playing something like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
Oh,
like,
my
I was
gosh.
just awful, just awful. I'm like, all right, I'm going to hang this up. And I'm like, I'll try a different instrument. Somebody has said, violin's hard. Try a different one first. So I got a keyboard. And I think I learned how to play like, the Imperial March from Star Wars. And that was about it.
Dun, 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 dun. No, wait, what is that?
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that was about it.
Oh, my goodness. Another thing, you guys, if you have questions about behavior, about patterns, about the drivers, drop a comment. Let's get a conversation going here. If you know somebody who is in their professional world, for example, who's struggling with change, they're just trying to understand themselves better, reach out. In the description of this video, once it airs, I'll give you all the access to Jay minus his email and his phone number, but you'll be able to go to his website. You can reach out to him across his social channels. Ask the questions. Seek the help. He'll provide guidance and resources, I'm sure, and make sure that you're getting the help that you need and the structure that you guys need. Outside of that, wow, what a great episode 10.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
This has been great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been my pleasure.
I hope you haven't psychoanalyzed me on my
Not
behavior.
at all.
No. I'm telling you. Well, you guys, thank you for tuning in every week. Every Wednesday, as you know, we film in studio. The next week, it airs on our YouTube channel. We then distribute it from there. Subscribe, hit the notification button so you don't miss additional content like this. And again, reach out, drop comments, share our content, because there's a lot of people that can benefit from this type of messaging, and you never know who's going through a struggle in life. Yeah. So please share this content out. Thank you for all your support and guidance. Love you guys. Mr. Jay Johnson in the house.
Thank you.
Awesome. Episode 10, guys. There we go.